him.
Right.
So we made a point, as we're having our getaway, of thanking the Lord, first of all, and forgiving the man that shot us.
Immediately. That was the first thought,
Yeah.
was to forgive him.
And this was not a difficult thing to do. And so I say to people, why? Why was it so easy to forgive him?
Yeah.
Because years and years ago, when I was a young mother and we were missionaries, I didn't know anybody or anything. I'm the only white lady for hundreds of miles around. And my husband gone all the time.
Yeah.
So I'm left with the children. And I was so upset and angry about being left. I read a book that said sometimes you need to forgive somebody who isn't doing anything wrong. And the reason is that you've got a problem inside. And so to clear your own heart, you forgive them. So I started to forgive my husband, who's sharing the gospel and doing his job.
Yeah.
And I got real, and leaving me alone, poor me, and all, So it wasn't just a pity party, it was really a difficult anger that I had against him. And as I began to forgive him, I got free from that.
Yeah.
And then the Lord's been going on teaching me more and new things. So if you have to forgive someone who's not doing anything wrong, sometimes you have to ask forgiveness when you didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
Why? To make reconciliation, to make a situation right. And my daughter was in nurses training, and the teacher was teaching about religion and nursing, and she was anti-Christian. My daughter was so upset. So I said, okay, bless her, pray for her, all these things that we tell our kids. And the Holy Spirit asked her to go and ask this lady's forgiveness. So she did. She's 20 years old, and she says, please forgive me for whatever Christians have done to you to make you so angry with them. Well, the lady backpedaled real quick, and she said, oh, I don't have a problem with Christians. Some of my best friends are Christians. But she never talked that way again in class about how bad Christians were. So we have to sometimes humble ourselves and ask forgiveness.
You had talked about the burden of unforgiveness, and that's not a familiar term, unforgiveness, but that's holding something against others and letting that grudge kind of eat away at you and become a burden for you. And forgiveness is then a wonderful step to free yourself of that.
Yeah.
Now, the young man who attacked you, you suspect that he had come to a baptism that you had done.
He could have been there. I wouldn't have known.
Okay.
But there was a whole line of men with AK-47s standing on the bank watching.
Yeah.
He could have been among them. I don't know.
Yeah. But you would love for him to know that he has been forgiven by the two of you.
Yes.
Time is passing by so quickly here. I want to move to what this means in terms of forgiveness and the planting of the churches. Tell me that story too, please.
Yeah, well, we've by name been praying for this man. We know him by name. We know where he is. Authorities are afraid to do anything about him for fear of his buddies taking revenge.
And he has killed two other people.
And he's killed two other people.
Not
They were
part of your party, but
they were his own people.
Yeah, and this is a vengeful culture that justice to them is getting revenge and not forgiveness and reconciliation. So continue that story.
Well, because of our praying for this man regularly, when my wife and I went back in October, we were informed that a new church is being built in his village. And when I asked, is it on his property, we don't know. They refused to tell us that. But there was a new church being built, and Gwen did some prayer walking around the new building and praying in the building. And I'll let you take over.
Yeah, as we did that, it just reconfirmed to me that if I could just find him and tell him, I've forgiven you, what a huge thing that would be just for him, but also for everyone else. We've been teaching forgiveness 20 years, and people would say, that's good teaching, but that's too hard, we're not going to do that.
Not practical.
Yeah, but now we've done it ourselves, and they know it. As I went back, I still was talking to them, forgive, forgive, forgive. I've forgiven him, you can forgive. It's not that you forget what would happen, it's not that you say it's okay, but you say, in spite of that, I forgive him, so I can be free.
Yeah.
So I can be free.
Yeah.
Many times I'm not concerned about the other person. I'm concerned about you and your heart and how bitter it can get.
Yeah.
And some things people do are really terrible. But if you hold on to them, they don't even hurt that person, they hurt you.
Yeah.
And you want to be free of that.
You have been the victims of violence. You have found forgiveness in your hearts. And the church that is growing up in his hometown is a symbol, I think, of that forgiveness. It'd be interesting to give a name to that church that reflected this whole story.
Yeah.
But then you continued to work in Ethiopia. Now, you've had a couple of years of reconstructive surgery,
Yeah.
but you've gone back to Ethiopia. And what is the work that you've been doing there?
Well, as of now, I'm building termite-resistant churches. You know, the churches that they build there is out of local material, which is just branches and trees and grass.
Yeah.
And the termites eat it down in one year.
And the termites have these huge nests in the trees, don't they?
Well, not in the trees, in the ground.
In the ground, oh,
yeah,
okay.
as well.
Yeah.
So we've come up with a prefab truss that we make in Addis out of metal and have uprights that hold the trusses that are out of metal and put a metal roof on, and we've beat the termites.
I'd like to tell one more story about
Sure.
John. He was telling this story to an Ethiopian lady from the States, and she said, "You're crazy. You got to be crazy to come back here to Ethiopia where they tried to kill you." And he said, Paul writes to us, "If I'm out of my mind, it is for the sake of Christ." That's the only reason to do crazy things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it happened to be the Easter season, just like we're in right now.
Yeah.
And I said to her, the reason we're here is because when Jesus died on the cross, he died on the cross because he loved me so much that he took my sin on himself and died on that cross.
Yeah.
And she could accept that. And then I said, the man that shot us, Jesus loved that man so much that he died on the cross for his sins as well. And that's why we keep coming back, because Jesus himself paid the price for that man's sin.
This is a wonderful legacy that you have created there in Ethiopia, and not just the clinics that you've helped build, or the road that you built, the wells that you helped dig by hand, the churches, but the legacy of forgiveness, which is at the heart of the gospel, and which I think, living by example, you have certainly created a wonderful opportunity for people, not just there, but as you tell the story in this country too, as you come back home.
The response here has been amazing. Everywhere we speak, there's somebody that says, "I needed to hear that today."
Ah, yes.
So I hope there's somebody that hears this that needed to hear that.
Yeah.
You can forgive.
Yeah.
You mentioned last night the New Wilmington Missionary Conference.
Yes.
When we spoke there the first night for the first program at the conference, after she spoke, the whole auditorium stood up and were clapping for about 5 minutes.
And these are primarily young people.
Yeah,
This is
high school,
high school age.
college-age kids.
Yep, yep. It's on the campus of Westminster College, and it's, I don't know, it's been there certainly 75 years, I guess,
at least.
easily.
You're an alumni, aren't you?
I'm an alumnus of Westminster College, and I spoke at the missionary conference once too. They didn't invite me back. It may have been the rock and roll. I don't know.
Yeah.
Our guests today on Encounter have been John and Gwen Haspels. They are still in a missionary mode. John, are you still going back to Ethiopia?
I'll be going back in June and maybe again in October.
Yeah. And then Gwen, you are still in a process of healing from the injuries. Will you be going back eventually?
It depends on my mom. She needs me right now, and if she would pass, I would like to go back with John.
Yes. So you're kind of on a tour of you're going to speak. You spoke yesterday at Hanover or at the Susquehanna Valley Presbytery, and you're going to be at the Northminster Church today, Sunday, and so again, we welcome you back from your journeys and wish you Godspeed as you continue to to spread the gospel and to live it out in your lives. A
Thank
very
you so much.
dramatic and wonderful story that I'm sorry you had to go through in order to come back and tell this story to us. But
Yeah.
when I heard you speak last night, I thought we have to get you in the studio.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for joining us for the Encounter program sponsored by the Broome County Council of Churches. And our thanks to WNBF Radio for carrying the audio, but also, of course, to WBNG TV for giving us the studio space and this amount of time to tell you these stories week by week of people at work in the faith, keeping the faith alive. I'm Jeff Kellam, hoping that in the coming week you'll be gentle with people and with yourself.